You're listening to the Go Lightly Martial Hour on freedomtalkradio.net. freedomtalkradio.net.
Well, hello there. Here we are. It's a Sunday. Show 303. And the date today is May the 3rd. I had to think there. I was stalling. It's May the 3rd, 2015.
Tracy's birthday tomorrow?
Yes, May the 4th. Your firstborn. When the sun rise. The sunset was 888 minutes for Port Alberni, May the 4th, 1968. And we all know the 888 is Jesus. In Greek gematria, it's all about him. He's back, announced by Pope Benedict XVI on 1st March the 12th, 2013, confirming his initial announcement, March 26th, 2013, the release to the electronic media, the internet, his apostolic letter he called In Christum Credent, identifying the Christ returned, resurrected, which is what reincarnation is. Resurrection is reincarnation. There was the physical resurrection of the body at the time that the resurrection occurred on April 5th, 33 AD. And the cross was all about the releasing of the blood from the body of Jesus, because that blood contained the soul of Yahweh. And that is the sole purpose for getting him back here today, where he is the old man today.
You look at it this way: heaven into a form of hell,
yes,
and stepping out from the body of Jesus by righteousness,
yes,
the last sacrifice, to then be into the realm of hell, where it was instantly 3 days in hell in a tomb,
yes,
meaning 3 days in hell on the earth,
yes,
which means 3 days, which is an instant movement from the resurrection out of hell,
yeah,
into the womb of Daphne the Lightly.
It was a walk through the veil.
I'll walk through the veil, and I've done it a few times. It's quite interesting.
Wheels within wheels, Ezekiel's realms within realms. And so it's all good for the good. And Yah's been working continually. There's more. This epic. When do you think the epic will be available for its world premiere?
Look, I think that today, once you have a look at this,
yes,
we can then put it into a slide format. We're going to do it so we'll put it into a series of photographs rather than a PowerPoint, because what you can do with a PowerPoint is save the images or each slide as a
JPEG or a PNG, yeah.
Yeah, as a photograph, which can then be put into a running type of display. Movie Maker.
Windows Movie Maker.
And that way it's compressed, and then it can be uploaded and then downloaded by anybody, and then spread throughout the world, along with the marvellous work done by some of our people, but in particular Pierre in Holland, who made that wonderful image of the shroud.
Well, he was the first one to do a lengthy, it's 13 minutes, 3D imaging the shroud while you're live on the video.
Yeah.
Not from photographs, but live. So from there, others, he's done more, and so have others.
So I'd say that I feel quite confident right now that I've done enough, because every time I look at something, I've got thousands of other things I can do with it. But I've got to keep it into a sort of a format that can be viewed by a new person coming in, and then also the experts, because basically we've got Armageddon at hand, and that's all to do with God coming back to the earth and being rejected. That's Psalms 118:22 and Matthew 21:42. And so that's all proven over and over and over again in the mathematics and the distances and the measurements of the earth, etc. But just tell you, if you look at the old times, they used to build a city or a fence or a wall around whatever. They would base it on the measurement of the man, which was the king, so they'd have his forearm, which would be a cubit, or his height or whatever. So this is what it was all about. So you would think that the same would apply, that when you are the creator, you're going to build something that is going to be measured by himself, when himself can come to the earth, and then via the Son conceived by the Holy Ghost in a virgin, were sinless. See, intercourse is a sin in that sense. It's once a woman enters into intercourse, it's a sin, unless it's in holy matrimony. Well, Mary was kept as a virgin because of that purpose, and her mother was very aged, and she was only a child, baby, when she was given over to the Essenes and the priesthood to raise her in the way of the Essenes. So that by the time she was 14, 15 years of age, she was ready for conceiving of the Holy Ghost, which is the wheels within wheels. The Holy Ghost, of course, is the same as the Holy Ghost is coming out of the blood of Jesus. So, in other words, going into the womb of Mary is the same ghost, except because it's all a parallel, and that's why the lines on the forehead, you've got 3 lines on the forehead. It's the wheels within the wheels. It's before the present and future, all as one, in a one straight line. So you select that bit out of the tape and take it back to the front and stick that in. So the Holy Ghost at the end is the Holy Ghost at the beginning, because the ghost really is what the soul of Jesus was, because the Holy Ghost is the ghost that can move through walls and whatever, and go forward and back in time, which is to God Almighty. So then it's got to come to the earth now on the same moment as the crucifixion resurrection point in time. Just zooming ahead 1910 years to be exactly at the same moment as the resurrection into the womb of the mother that has the most royal person, because it's got to be King of Kings in a sense that can only be done by the descent of the royal line of Judah. Judah is not Jews, it's got nothing to do with Jews. Jews is a slang word, it's Idumeans, they come out of Babylon. So that is why this here, I think, has really nailed it in that sense. And it doesn't need words. You can just read it, stop it, study it, send an email, ask a question.
Yes.
Right, then we can address it over the radio like we're doing today.
Yeah. Marvellous. All right, well, we've got Ross and Hirad who are listening to us. They're in the chat room. And Ross is just saying, hi guys, show 303, the 3rd of May. And he's listening from 33 Addison Road, Marrickville. And Hirad's got 33 AD, and this is what we're talking about, 33
many times
AD.
in Marrickville.
I know Addison's Road, Marrickville. I've travelled the city as you daily. Daily when I was working with the family business. I was the sales force going into the city daily, meeting with customers and designing equipment, all kinds of things. So yes, we do know those areas. I don't miss those days.
No, I don't either.
No.
Well, in fact, I miss them every chance I got.
And, Hirad says, love you, yeah. And now, Hirad, I have to ask, have I got another friend request from you, and you've called yourself H-Rad Prince? Because if it's not you, then I don't know who it is. And I haven't yet okayed the request, because there's a whole bunch of other requests from, seems like, men I don't know, and they're not attached to any of you. So, if that's you, Hirad, I mean, it looks like you, but it may not be you. I don't want to, Anyway, bottom line is, please clarify if it's you or not. Oh, right. Okay. So, yes or no? Is that you, H. Rad Prince? All right. I'll do it right now. Just to give him the game away, hasn't it? If you wanted to keep anonymous. What am I going to talk?
Well, I'm just finishing this off.
Yes.
Basically, just for those who are curious, who is the 666? Well, remember how Solomon received 666 talents of gold and so forth? Well, he set the stage of being the breeding children out of the descendants of Lot out of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
Right. So they married into what? All the tribes of Israel, right, through the 10 northern tribes. And then you've got the tribe of Judah, which is a royal tribe, and that's the Jesus tribe, and the Martha tribe, and the Holy tribe, and all the prophets come out of that tribe, but they were also Essenes. They were not Jews. This is what you've got to understand, they were not Jews. Jews is a Babylonian myth. However, that's the secret religion, the abomination of desolation is the mystery religion of Babylon.
Yes.
And what we have then is John Paul II was the epitome of evil. He was shot 942 days after he became Pope in 1981 on May the 13th. That lines up, of course, with the numbers of 5:13, First Chronicles 5:13. So there's always this synergy, there's this balance between the two. I never miss an opportunity in the creation to put it all together. So knowing what these arseholes are going to do, so therefore we'll have the bastard shot on the 942 day. Why? Because the term tons of verses there is in Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's how many days I lived at Rothschild Avenue in the heart of hell.
Yes.
Right? Etc., etc., etc. Now, he was the one that confirmed the imposter of Fatima.
Yes.
Lucia.
Yeah, Lucia.
And
Yeah.
the letters of the imposter was to say, the consecrated heart of Russia and all this kind of bullshit. Well, it was in 1917, at the end of the bloody Russian Revolution, right, World War One, right, was already passed. And now they're talking about what's going to happen in Russia. Come on, give me a break. Anyhow, she could have been exposed because he met with them several times, and the real lady that was the child, you can see she had terrible teeth, and not a pretty woman as she grew older, but the one that replaced her was like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, they didn't really try to find someone that would fit and look like her, but because of the internet and photography, they never realised in those days.
In those days,
that
everything was
overtake
distant. That's right.
So now you can put the two together. Now, next one is Paul the Sixth. Now, he was a homosexual.
Right.
But he did have some good ideas. So he had to go.
Yes.
He wanted to get rid of capitalism.
Ooh.
Right.
That's the Jews right
Actually, a homily was written by Benedict on that. He said, well, now we can't get rid of it, so we just have to put up with the suffering it causes to the innocent and try and help them. That's what Benedict thought about, right? That's why I wrote Vatican III, to dispose of Vatican II, which was the disposal of Vatican I.
Yes.
So then the good Pope was, Paul the Sixth was homosexual, right? But they replaced him because of what he'd done. They got rid of him, murdered him, and then they put a replacement in. Well, the replacement was a moron. He had no education at all, and he actually met with the UN and President Johnson and all those people to support the war in Vietnam. Right? So the Christians and Catholics in there would go to war for the Pope to go to Vietnam. That's what he was all about. Now, you compare the two men. The only thing similar is the shade of their skin. Everything else is a total... It's like putting you and I side by side and saying we are the same person. Right? Like you've got a huge nose and your ears stick out, and mine's quite nice and neat. But when you compare the two men, totally different. So I've done that in this PowerPoint. And then you've got the good Pope. He was John Paul I. Now, what happened? He was just on the cusp of when the Sturt team was going into the Vatican, the Turin, to look at the Shroud of Turin. And the Shroud of Turin itself is the most recognisable and most wonderful, absolute miracle, slam dunk. There's not a thing in it that the scientists have been able to understand. It's just complete like a miracle. And of course, it's my face. My body, as you know, the same shape of the chest and the legs and the arms and impish grin.
The same impish grin.
So it's identical. That's where Pierre come in and done that. Well, it had been done before by others, but Pierre.
Well, it was done once before by the Shakespeare in and that was in May 2010.
Didn't he have a turn on you, didn't he?
Oh, I think they all go through a silly season. Seriously, they go through a silly season. I don't know what his thoughts are now, but he's still around.
I still feel the knife stabs in the back.
Yeah, probably. But
so this is what happens. But anyway, getting on with this PowerPoint, we've got the Pope, John Paul II. This is your beast. This is your 666. Why? Because he was elected when the sunrise to sunset for Rome was 666 minutes. And because of the wobble of the Earth, the change in the duration of a sun over a particular city or location on Earth varies over about a 4-year period. So we've got a 4-year window when the Pope, first off, was 666 minutes from Rome, and 1978, and then the next year it was 668. So you go from 1978 back to 1974, and it was 666 minutes. Right, and that's when all the skullduggery was going on. Right. So they got rid of John Paul I because he was actually a good man, very good man, very fit. His doctor had been his doctor for 20 or 30 years.
yes.
And he said he's one of the fittest men of all time. He'd go jogging every day, climbing mountains and all sorts of things.
So how old was he when he died?
About 58. But he had a heart attack while he was lying in bed because he was on the bed that he was in was on top of the Vatican Bank. And he had all the papers on the Vatican Bank and laundering money for the CIA, etc.
Yes.
And also he had the report on how many Freemasons there were how many bishops were Freemasons in the Vatican itself, and the cardinals. And he was going to reveal it the next day. And he was going to kick all the Jews out and all the Freemasons out, because he had Freemasons. There was 100 or so Freemasons as well that he knew of that had been named in a report. Well, that disappeared the next morning when they found his
body.
His servant come in to help him, as he usually did, getting dressed himself early in the morning, about 4:30 in the morning. Man got up very early, done all sorts of wonderful things. He only lasted 29 days. Now, what happened then? Pope John Paul II comes in, rides in on the name.
Yes.
As a brilliant man, the first one was.
Yeah, well, yes, out of honour to him.
Yeah. So it was only a few days after that, at his death, that before the next Pope gets in, on the 10th of October, there was no Pope.
Sorry, sneezing, guys. Expect more, but go on. It's like you this morning.
Yes, it's
Keep
very
going.
contagious, isn't it?
John Paul II rides in on the... Yeah.
Well, John Paul II comes in, but there was no Pope in between the interim times of the death and the next Pope.
Well, that's right.
And that's when Sturt made their conclusion. These scientists come in on the 8th of October when they say, hey, this thing is absolutely true.
So how many days was it before...
Well, you've got the 8th of October.
Because they're giving up to 3
and then
weeks.
you've got the election on the 13th. So the 14th, this is when the 666 minutes is.
Right.
That's when Pope John Paul II becomes Pope.
Right.
So it's right in that. So they killed him primarily because not only was he going to expose the Freemasons and the Jews and the money laundering, but also he would have supported the truth of and made a big deal out of it.
Yes.
Right? And he would not have allowed Carbon 14, that was done 8 years later, under the auspices of John Paul II.
It was all set up.
It was all set up. It was not in 88, rather. So, so about 8 years, 10 years. So, that's why they got rid of him. A lovely, lovely man. Now, we then go into this talking about the St. Michael's Prayer, which was put into the Mass in Latin by Leo the 13th on the 13th of October, right?
Yes.
In the year 1884. Now, 33 years later, you got Mary appears to the children in Fatima, and that starts the Lucia, right? Therefore, she had to go. Right? So, we then have the Pope, who was the conclave elects him on the 13th, which is also going into the 14th the next day when it's announced, 666 minutes. So there's only one moment in time where Rome is 666 minutes.
And it was that day.
And that was it.
And they announced JP too.
So on and on it goes. So we go back in time to the Gregorian calendar. That was Pope Gregory the 13th. He was informed by the astronomers that the sundial was out by 10 days. So he said, we'll make the next day. So the next day, this is on the 4th of October, and the next day was they made it the 15th. So that gives you 10 days out, because they shouldn't have altered time. It does predict in the Bible they alter time. Now they also went from 1 BC to 1 AD, and they didn't count anything in between the two, where there should be 365 days. Now what that does, it gives you 365 plus 10 is 375 days. So I then go through from the Captain Cook sighting of the comet in coming back from Antarctica, which is not, you won't find that too easily either, because they keep on changing his times that he went around the world. And if you look it up, it's not the same trip as he went down to observe the transition of Venus on the 3rd of June in 1769, and then gave his secret orders to go down and find an alternative to Australia. They already knew where it was. It's called New Holland. They already knew had Abel Tasman. They already had that with New Zealand. But he had a Harrison clock, which one of my relatives invented it, which gave you longitude. So he was then sailing back from Antarctica after nearly having been wrecked on the Endeavour. The Endeavour was renamed on the same date as the Crucifixion Resurrection date,
April
right,
5th.
in 1768, and it was the Pembroke, SS Pembroke, and the SS Pembroke, Pembrokes are the marshals, the Earls of Pembroke. So they didn't realise, because they're all too stupid, but they had a concordance of such. They knew what the concordance numbers were, because when they translated the Bible, because they put everything in alphabetical order, so they had it. You do this, how many numbers? You never, blah blah blah. So they had a Strong's concordance long before James Strong's concordance came out, and they were able to sail around the Cape of Good Hope, and it is 1008.4.5 miles from the North Pole, times pi is 3168 Lord Jesus Christ, so that was no shit moment. And then they sailed up the coast of Chile to the 5,000 miles from the coast, which is the 50th layer of masonry of the Great Pyramid. They're reading the pyramid.
Yes.
Made a left turn, go out 5,000 miles, and oh shit, there's a big island in the way. It's called Tahiti. On Tahiti, there's a mountain where they're going to set up this observation. Right, so we've got Wallace goes there first. 666 days later, Captain or Lieutenant Cook shows up, right, with a Harrison clock, and he verified the Harrison clock used by Wallace on the SS Dolphin. He then went to Tahiti. Right, Tahiti is very hard to find. It's one of the most remotest islands in the earth. He found it with the Harrison clock. Right, so he knew where it was. So when he goes there, he counts all the statues. And there's one statue, big one.
No, we're talking about Easter Island, baby.
Sorry, Easter Island. There's one big statue there that has been carved out of 400 tons of rock and is laying at the same angle as the descending passage of the King James of the Great Pyramid, descending passage, 26, 18, 9, 7 degrees. And right beside it is a smaller one. It's a little bit 280 tons or something like that. So Cook is then sent there. Now there's 888 statues. Count them today, there's 887. Why? They don't count the big one beside the other big one. So what they're saying is that this big huge one is 400 tons or so, 71 feet long, right beside that side of a volcano. Right beside it is the female, and they're going to get rid of that. So here's this thing, 280 tons, Cook goes there, they take the ship's cannons and they start bombasting it and blasting it with powder and so forth, try and get rid of it. Well, it's pretty hard to get rid of a 280-tonne statue because it's laying down, it's embedded into the side of the volcano. So what they're saying is, don't count that one. We've only got the other one, which is not Yahweh coming out, because that's what it represents, because it's 888 statues. Jesus, 888. They're saying this is their god, Lucifer, coming out the side of the volcano. Because their god is Lucifer. So you've got to look at it logically. Why would these people who's supposed to have carved these things out with a round rock by beating the shit out of it, right? That's what they say. Right? It's
totally logical, isn't it?
Totally logical. All these fine detail work. You get a rock and start banging on it. So, right? Get several 100,000 people banging rocks, and eventually you get one made, right? And they're saying is they must have made the first one and said, oh shit, we didn't like that. So I go further up the hill, about another 10 feet, and do the 400-tonne one. Why didn't they do the 400-tonne one where the 280-tonne one was? Right? It would have been better if they destroyed and filled it in, the other one if they could have, which they can't. But logically speaking, the US Navy could possibly have done it. Right? But certainly not Lieutenant Cook with his little pop shooter. Probably be fine if you dig into it, you'll find cannonballs inside it.
While we're on the subject of Cook, Ross just wrote, he said, Cook Street is straight out my window, facing nearly south.
All right, so that's what happened on Easter Island. Now, when they eventually went there, Cook was sent after Wallace, because Wallace had went there, and now he had the longitude and latitude precisely with the Harrison clock. So he was sent on the next mission to go out there to go to destroy the damn thing. Now, while he was waiting after the 666 days due to the winds, the angel of the winds, got him there 666 days after Wallace, ready for the transition of Venus. So they wanted to work out the distance to the sun by the transition of Venus. And they got it very close. They got 100,000 miles. I was only out by 942 million miles. I thought it was a pretty good effort. Okay, so he goes for a bit of a row around and see on the very southern point, which is 4990 miles from the South Pole. You can comment on that in a moment. There's a pyramid they found 11 layers high, and the footprint was 23229 square feet. Cook was very, very accurate in his measurements and wrote everything down. Mistake. When the Admiralty find out, 18 years later, they sent a crew out there to destroy this damn thing. Why? Because this is the devil. See, the devil in men knows the entire story. It's been already kicked out of heaven, right? So it knows how Christ is going to measure the earth and all these numbers, and they know what the genetic line of going to be. They know who the king's going to be. That's why King James, and when he writes Sabbath in the King James Bible, there's a lowercase s. Why? There's 115 of them. Now, it's like, do you know all your cousins' names?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so did James. And the one that should have been king was the Golightly,
which has a geometry of 115.
See how it all fits together? So this footprint is the age difference between myself and Golightly, my grandfather, Francis Aloysius. Now, Ratzinger, his second name is Aloysius, not with a spelt with an I. Golightly spelt with a Y.
Aloysius spelt with a Y.
With a Y in English. So he's got the I, and so it's the only difference, right? So even that lines up, right? And then you've got the descendants of my ancestors coming down through Ireland and Scotland, and you've got King James, which we by mistake go there because of MI5 giving us a runaround. We end up buying a car in Edinburgh, and we go to Arbroath Castle.
Arbroath Abbey. Monastery.
And that was all to do with Benedict, right? Because the Benedictine monks, which was introduced by the Queen of England, which has now been written out of history, which was Margaret. And this is the time of the Conqueror. When he goes in with the Talmudic laws that takes over England. You know, that was William the Conqueror.
Yes.
So that was 1066 on Christmas Day. Hello. So what we have then is the entire structure of England's laws and the Vatican laws, all based on the Talmud. Right? Now, I haven't actually put it in this PowerPoint. We can do another one for that. But it goes down to John Paul II. He is the beast. Every pope that was in the Vatican since the Vatican was formed as a king and pope city,
sacerdotal monarchy.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can't say
which
it,
means
it
priest
good.
king.
Sacerdotal monarchy.
Sacerdotal, it's called sacerdotal monarchy.
Sacerdotal monarchy. So that was the Lateran Treaty, right? Which is 11th. Get this, 11th of February, which is the birth date of my mother's husband, Richie. Right? And so we've got the Lateran Treaty for all this period of time since 1929 onwards, falling in the life of my stepfather. Right? And then we've got Pope Benedict, 84 years later.
To the day.
To the day he resigns. He was urged by God to do that in his mind. He couldn't get rid of the filth out of the church. So here he is. At that point in time, he's no longer the beast. He's not doing the will of Lucifer. He stepped back and said, shit, I've had enough. Right? So that makes him the seventh of the Vatican, that he's the only one left alive, the other ones are dead, and he will become the eighth, and this is Revelation 17:11. So I've explained that in there.
Yes.
Right. So we've got the sixth, which is John Paul II, who has changed. We've got a whole list of the things, and there's much, much more. We've got a PDF on it. This is from the Diamond Brothers in New York.
Yes, the Holy
Very,
Family.
very clever lads, these two. Of course, they deny me, but then fair enough. So everyone does. I mean, if they turned around and accepted me, it was a bit of a problem, wouldn't it? Prophecy would not hold. You've got to be denied, otherwise I wouldn't be rejected. If they said, yeah, we believe it, oh, shit, get someone else, I'm out of business, right? Got to be rejected. All right, so what is...
Because these are the builders of society.
I'll give you one, I'll read one little one. During the meeting of a member of each false religion came forward and offered a prayer for peace. This is the Pope. Blasphemous prayers, for instance, as the Hindu prayers said, peace be on all gods. The animist leader prayed to the great thumb.
The great thumb.
But their gods are devils, as we saw above. So peace was being prayed for all the devils who created those false religions. At the Vatican-sponsored World Day of Prayer for Peace, the Vatican II religion wants you to be in communion with devils. That's what this most beloved. Now, also, I should mention that on the 10th or 11th of November, Saturday, just after my son had been murdered, right, by a locum that had come down from where my uncle should have been, the one that should have been King of Australia, or the England, right, had sold out. And he was with the Jews and he made lots of money. Right? So they bought him, but they couldn't buy me. So when Pauline was pregnant, lovely man, it was most obstetricians and gynecologists are lovely people. You could see it, they know how to have women suffer, right? So he was a lovely man, this fellow. He said, I'll be through you right the way through, no problem. Next thing he's gone.
He's gone,
They've been replaced with a locum.
Yeah.
And he gives Pauline some drug to take and the baby dies. And I said to her, do not take it. Whatever you do. I could see the devil in this man, right? And he was grinning at me.
Yes.
Because he knew. Because she said, I'm sick, I better go. So you got 3 days to go, you mad bitch, so don't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Lay down, take it easy. Don't take any of those drugs. Well, she did and the baby died. All right. So a few days later, we're down at the markets in Sydney, big, huge markets, still all the
Paddy's Market area.
Market. Still everything you can think of, but produce and meat and so forth. And I found a parking spot. Unbelievable.
Right? It is unbelievable.
And this was Hay Street in the Haymarket.
Yes.
And I walked to the end and said, what's going on?
Hay Street, Ultima, yeah.
What's going on? So I go up to the crowd and there's this barricade and there's people standing there, and so I just walked amongst them, and actually people spread apart to let me in. It was amazing. So I was in a prominent position, really. And who should come around the corner with Pope John Paul II in his Pope-mobile, right? Bulletproof glass all over it, right? I wish I'd had a gun. A rocket would have done nicely, wouldn't it? Would have saved the world a bit of problem right there. And he seen me, and he had the most strange look of terror on his face, right? Satan, Lucifer within him, has seen God in the flesh on the earth. Oh shit moment. and his eyes were transfixed on mine. I watched him come from the left, slowly the things moving, and he just stared at me with this terrified look on his face. To the point, as it went past the end of the street and got out of sight, he was still staring at me. So his eyes and head was turning towards me all the way through.
Yes.
It was absolutely terrifying. I got that in there, I got the date, the sunrise and so forth.
Yes, and the star overhead.
The star overhead, everything. It all tells a story, right? So this work is really a marvellous thing. The other one you've already read, and the 400 and odd slides in one.
Yeah, that's edited, and we read on the show the first part of the next bit.
Okay,
so
now
this will be the
also
third
goes
part
on.
Of the epic.
This also goes on. There's when Cook sails to Australia, there are several places he should have went into and didn't. Because he's a world famous explorer, right? He measured New Zealand, got 888 miles between latitudes, and the maps are so accurate that they still use them. That's how good he was. He was a genius, right? Now, it took him 6 months to do that. When he gets to Australia, he goes nowhere. Straight up the coast, but on the way up from Antarctica, he spotted the Messier Comet. And that was the 30th of August in 1769. He spotted that and he wrote it in his
ship's log.
Ship's log, he did. Magnificent comet. So he's the first white eye spot to record it, and all the crew's seen on record. And if you add 8 days to that, it gives you my birth when I'm 69, when I'm talking to the Pope. Or just
it was
about
2
to
months
talk to the Pope.
after. It was exactly to the date, 2 months after.
Now, if you add that to the actual crossing of what's predicted by the Mayan calendar, but now it's out by 335 days. So it's got 20th of December, 20th, 21st, 22nd, that area. Right? That's Rhiannon's birthday, who was a monster she should have a hunch on her back. One of the worst people I've ever met in my lifetime. A monster of a child, greedy, selfish, liar, you name it. Right? So she's got a very strong case for abortion. Right? Very strong case. The mother should have got rid of it. However, she's crucial to fitting into the First Chronicles 5:13 numbers and my daughters, right? And Michelle, who was Mary Magdalene. Another one that should have been aborted at birth. So I'm not completely taking abortion out of the picture here, right? So in those cases, Stalin, another one. Right? So there's some people that the angels will be taken care of. Don't worry about it, ladies. I'm not serious. But there will be no abomination brought to the earth, because once God is here, you can't go to heaven. You can't come to the earth where God is, because God's in heaven. You can't go to heaven if you're an evil. So you certainly can't go to the earth where hell is. Now God's come to liberate everybody on the earth, so therefore they're all got to go. So they will die off and be removed. So if you add 8 days to the Messier Comet discovered in France on the 8th of August in 1769. It gives you Rhiannon's 33rd birthday, which is the crossing of the Milky Way galaxy equatorial line on the 20th of December.
Yeah.
Now, it's the 20th of December in 2006 I started doing, not on purpose, I don't do anything on purpose, I do it
spontaneously, yes.
As you know. And that was the first of the 7-year period coming up to, and then you, of course, I found you on the internet somehow. And,
he does that because he knows I'll say, I found you.
And you spoke to me for once every 1 minute, of course, that is
on April 1st.
Now, going back, why didn't Cook go into the most magnificent natural harbour on earth?
He couldn't.
400 feet high cliffs either side, over 100 metres high.
Couldn't
get in. Why? There's a sword across it.
Like the Garden of Eden. The
Garden of Eden type swords, right? The cherubims were protecting it. He couldn't get in there. So when you measure that, it's 1.97 kilometres from point to point. And it points directly to 7 Travone Street, Padstow, which I inherited from my mother. Right? And the distance to the same address in Cornwall, in Padstow, Travone Road, 7 Travone Road, is 10772.6 miles, which is the diagonal of the finished pyramid in feet, 1077.26 feet, and how many days between the beheading of Charles I and myself, birth, 1077.26 days. See how it's all pointing to the... Now, he was dedicated to Jesus big time, right? he said in a beautiful letter he wrote to his children the night before he got beheaded that he's going to be with Christ. He'll be with Christ. Because it's my stupid nephew. Comes back to the moron. In any case,
well, I guess
he'll shape up.
Having your head hacked off from your previous life would make you a moron.
He'll shape up. But all these things are in this. Now, from that point, we have on the 2nd of May, was it?
2nd of May.
I discovered another...
No, the 1st.
1st of May, I discovered... It's the Illuminati Day.
May Day.
Yeah. I discovered another sword embedded in the sea, and I've checked it out with the other Magellan programs. It's also in there, and you have to be very close to sea level to see it. And the length of it is 31.2 nautical miles. So there's my name again. The other one over England, which I discovered back in 1997, 2000, it measures to the Great Pyramid from the centre of that sword 3168 miles, and then straight down it comes to the Straits of Gibraltar, which is 2424 miles. Then across to the pyramid, so the three sides measure 7770 miles. That's your sacred number, right? It's also in First Chronicles and it goes on. So we go from the centre of that point to the centre of the other one, which now encompasses the whole world. So it forms a part of the triangular shape. But then I measure it down to the centre of the sword guarding Sydney Heads, the one that points directly to
your
7 Trevone Street, Padstow. Right? And that gives you a series of miracles right there, which I won't go into at this point. But what we were talking about before, where the footprint of this pyramid was 23229 on Tahiti, the distance is 4990 to the South Pole.
And 4990 in Greek is a deliverer, that is God or Christ, Saviour. That's how much we paid for the Peugeot.
Now, you bought me a birthday present some years ago, and it's that beautiful...
the Ark of the Covenant.
We call it utility in Australia, but in America it's called a pickup, sort of like a pickup truck. And it's absolutely a magnificent thing. The registration is when it was first licensed, was the 20th of July, 1996. Now the 20th of July in 1934, when my mother married, which was kept secret by old Richie because she was up the duff at the time, and he wanted to change, and my mother changed the date from July to January, but my brother found it because he's a sneak, and he told me that they changed the wedding date because it made him legitimate.
Right.
So when you measure in time to the date that I was conceived on April the 6th Australia time, or April the 5th resurrection time in Jerusalem, the number in weeks is the same number as the height of the pyramid up to the objective capstone and that's also in there.
Now, as years, it's 62 years between the marriage date and the registration of the Ark of the Covenant, which is Isaiah, which reads, "For Zion's sake," we're not talking about the Zionists.
Zion is bullshit.
"For Zion's sake I will not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest until the righteousness thereof go out as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth, and the Gentiles shall see that." This is all referring to you.
Yeah.
You are Jerusalem, and out of Zion, well, hello. It's got nothing to do with the Zionists, and they're all dead meat. This is Isaiah.
It's all a fraud, that's the whole point. So otherwise there'd be no point in becoming that, is there? Someone's got to do it. I'm not happy about it. I'm not.
Okay. Do you have more to...
Well, I could go on and on. We've got the exposure of the Pope as being a beast. That's the whole point. And thanks to the Diamond Brothers in New York.
Their records, their archives,
very clever,
thorough,
well-informed men.
really thorough.
They just haven't got the last little bit.
No, they have all of the doctrinal
Shroud,
theology
got the shroud.
from the good popes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they label Benedict as an anti-pope, etc. Benedict just followed along with allowing certain things after the precedent was set by the one that he loved, which was John Paul II. And
he's a naive man.
Naive,
what you
humble,
really
naive.
have to have as a pope when you've got Christ over the top. So we'll ring us up in, say, Hawaii on a mountain somewhere. We'll be scuba diving and hang sailing and all that kind of stuff. And we'll maybe get a radio call on the convertible Mercedes from the Pope. You've got a question. Yeah, all right, this is wrong, that's right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Call me back next week.
Yeah. Now, of course, again, getting back to the Diamond Brothers and their ilk, the traditionalist Catholics, that you to them would be the Antichrist, which is what you anticipated years ago, that you will be viewed as the Antichrist yourself.
I'm the rejected one. Right?
You're the rejected one, but even your policies, I mean, you wrote out 27 points before I found it, years before, this was all part of the, where you wrote an essay and you said you will be perceived as the Antichrist, because amongst those, you talk about a mark in the forehead or on the head. Well, that would be the 888. But it would be perceived as the mark of the beast. And of course, that's what everybody who rejects you, they call you the Antichrist because of their own delusion and no humility. The meek are the ones who are teachable.
Some time ago, I put my hand up on...
Oh, yes.
And you see an M shape in it.
Yeah.
I said, that's Marshall, right? They're all looking at the hand, right? I said, no, only joking, it's a W for VW, right?
Yeah.
So,
but then everybody's got it, so, that caused...
Not everybody. Michelle hasn't got it.
Yeah, well, most people. Anyway, it just caused such a ruckus, and that's exactly what he does. I mean, yesterday when I put out that for your information, guys, from now on you refer to Yah as the Holy Father. Well, it's to cause a ruckus. He is the Holy Father, and is why the reference, as Jesus, he said, don't call anyone on earth your father, because they are not. He is the only male soul. But it's all to create controversy, and the ones that can't handle controversy are the ones that
but
run.
they are yapping on. They'll go and tell everybody at the church or at the pub, wherever they are, that this is our soul in Australia, saying this, saying that, and blah, blah, blah.
We love the ruckus. You remember the agent? That was his big thing. He couldn't handle controversy. He doesn't like controversy. This is the coward agent that was sent out with us for months for and his big thing was he couldn't handle controversy. So boy, the reaming out in Fiji where I got stuck into him, man alive.
Well, so they identified themselves because the age between him and his wife was the word devil.
Yeah. Anyway, it's all part of the DVD. And as the angel said to me all those years ago, 2007, it was August the 7th, tell Janelle it's all about the journey and not the destination. So, and are you ready for the adventure of your lifetime? Well, it has been. It's been quite a ride. And it's only going to get more interesting from now on. And
you've got to remember, at that point in time, I've been doing it for 60 odd years.
Yes, that was just...
And this started when I was a 2-year-old. Right?
I know. Yep, you were a lot older when I found you, babe, than you are today. What pains don't you have today that you were suffering? Yeah.
Oh, I had neck problems, I had a shoulder problem, lower back, hip problem.
And all of these prevented you from
These.
really moving a lot, wasn't it? And even walking.
Well, the rap dancing was a big problem for me.
And skateboarding.
Skateboarding.
I was
that triple thing I was doing there in the basement.
Yeah. Triple toe flip, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some people said it wasn't me, you know.
Yeah. I asked Adam Yates if he'd found that video yet from 2011 where you're in your two-tone singlet taking your selfie in the bathroom mirror, and the next moment you're on the skateboard down in the basement doing the triple flip and all that. Oh dear, we've had fun. All right, we've got about 9 minutes to go, and are you going to continue talking?
No, you can have a yap now.
Well, I've found, because of my mother and her, just bring everybody up to speed, the 10 days that I was with her, and
tell me how the accident happened and what the impossible part about it is.
Now get a load of this, because I saw, my mother, if you remember, guys, in January, this freak accident, what happened? She arrived home after, it was a Sunday afternoon, playing bridge. Now, it
was a bridge over troubled waters.
Bridge over troubled waters, all right. But anyway, she parked part way in the garage. Now, the garage floor is flat, it's level. But the driveway leading to the garage is quite a steep incline. But she parks, her memory of it is she parks in the garage, and a ladder had been left because the boys had actually been doing yard work, and a ladder was left out. So she had to get out of the car to move the ladder so she could get the car all the way in. Now, she got out of the driver's side, and she thought to get something from the passenger side while she was out of the car. So she opened the door from the passenger side when the car begins to roll backwards. Obviously, she didn't put it in park. She's just forgot to do
She's left it in drive with the engine
left it
running.
in drive with the engine running, and the car starts to roll backwards. The open door pushes her down as it is rolling backwards, but it pushes her under my sister's car, who's parked out on the left-hand side of the driveway. Now, I looked at her car. It's Toyota, fairly not too old Toyota. There's only this much between the ground. Now, my mother is pushed underneath that. Her head goes underneath towards the back wheels. There was no space for a head to go under. How she got under there, Mum doesn't know. How she got under there without smacking her head.
Well, she's not scratched up in her face.
No. The damage was done, as it turns out, not to her hip, but to her leg. She fractured a femur. But when the ambulance came, she's under the car. Now, her car continued to roll back. Hers was a Hyundai Elantra, I think it is. So it continued to roll back down the driveway and park itself on the opposite side of the street. Mum's concern, I know this is what, when it started to roll, she tried to grab the handbrake because her initial thought was, oh my God, if the car, are there any children out in the street? So she tried to pull on the handbrake, but the momentum of the car had too much. Already she's thrown under my sister's car. But her car parked on the opposite side of the street, like it had been put there deliberately. So she's under the car and she's calling out now because Dane was at home inside the house. So she's trying to scream for help, and of course they're inside the house, and who knows what caused Dane to actually walk outside and see Mum, just literally half of her body out on the driveway, the rest of it underneath her car where there's only this gap. So she freaks, panics, and anyway, when the ambulance came...
She got a big head like you,
right? They had to get Dane's car moved, like to move forward about, or so that they could get in and bring Mum out. Well, Dane froze, so I'm not going to move it. I can't. So they chopped the wheel. That's right. She had to have been. They wanted her. Must have been to drive to come back, but Dane says no, I can't. I'm frozen, like fear. They chopped the wheels. No, they wanted her to go forward to get Mum out. So they chopped the wheels to make sure that it wouldn't roll back any further to go over Mum, and then they were able to drive in it. But anyway, Mum was unscathed, the part that was underneath her car, and this is where the fracture for the... So, she was doing fine. They put 2 titanium nails in. They thought it would be a hip replacement, but the hip was fine. It was the femur that fractured. So the dude that I met while I was down there put 2 screws in, and her recovery, everybody was marvelling at. She was up immediately recovering, physio, because mum's like that, like, don't let me lie down, I know what happens when people lie down too long. However, pain started in her, the knee. Now that knee so it's a right leg, that knee was replaced 7 years ago. So she started getting this debilitating pain in the kneecap about 5 weeks ago, which would cause her to freeze. Long story short, more investigation, a CT scan after an MRI, but the CT scan, the doctor came to the conclusion that she has not healed. The fracture itself has not healed. So in his mind, why hasn't it healed? Well, as it turns out, almost 10 years ago, because of cardiac irregularities, the specialist then put her on prednisone. And she said that she saw him for 2 years, and the last time she saw him, he just said, well, continue taking the prednisone. Well, as I said to her, every man and his dog knows that you cannot be on prednisone for any length of time, not even 1 year. Short spurts, then you're off it. Well, she's been off it, and that has caused the non-healing of the bone, the repairing of the fracture. Which brings me to what I had told her while I was down there. If that is the case, I said to her, silver has been used for a very long time, but silver ions promotes healing of bone, causes bone regrowth and the healing of fractures. So what I've posted to my Facebook page is info archive site about colloidal silver. Now, listen, I want to read this. I've already posted it to my Facebook. But this is just one part of this archive about silver. The wonders of colloidal silver healing skin and other soft tissue. This leads into bone. In the 1970s, Dr. Carl Moyer, chairman of Washington University's Department of Surgery, received a grant to develop better treatments for burn victims. Dr. Harry Margraf worked with Dr. Moyer and other surgeons as the chief biochemist on this project. They tested 22 antiseptic compounds and rejected all of them. The problem was that infections in burns often failed to respond to antibiotics. Most antiseptics actually destroyed the delicate healing tissues in severe burns and were very painful. The greatest problem was the bacterium Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which is particularly infectious to burns and fails to respond to all common antiseptics and antibiotics. In his research into medical history, Dr. Margraf found numerous references to silver as an antimicrobial agent. It was found that silver has been used for hundreds of years in one form or another to treat infection, as well proven itself to be totally non-toxic at all concentrations. Bacteria have never developed an immunity to it. He found references to it as a catalyst that disables the enzymes anaerobic microorganisms depend on. Dr. Margraf therefore tried silver, the same solution used in newborn babies' eyes at birth. It worked. After further study, he found that all of these problems were solved by colloidal silver. With colloidal silver as the base, he then developed a salve marketed as silver sulfadiazine that has been extremely effective in treating the infections and promoting the healing in serious burns. It is now routinely used for severe burn victims, resulting in a large reduction of scarring and a heavy reduction of deaths for extensive severe burns. So this goes on to describe, in Science Digest, March 1978, relates a speeding car overturned and burst into flames. The 18-year-old driver suffered burns all over his face, neck, arms, hands, back, stomach and legs. Burns covered more than 80% of his body. Until recently, this would have been a death sentence. Doctors knew how to restore vital body fluids and salts, but had no way to fight infection, the primary cause of death in burn cases. Fortunately for this youth, a new silver compound killed deadly bacteria and enabled him to heal. He was out of the hospital within 4 months. And then UCLA ran some tests on colloidal silver, and their report states, quoting, "The silver solutions were antibacterial for concentrations of 10 organisms per mil of Streptococcus pyogenes, Staphylococcus aureus, Neisseria gonorrhea, Gardnerella vaginalis, Salmonella typhi, and other enteric pathogens, and fungicidal for Candida albicans, Candida globate, and M. furfur." Now, this is where my mother comes in. Another line of research that has led to this change of thinking is described in the bestseller, The Body Electric, in which Robert O. Becker, leading research scientist in the field of bone regeneration, states on page 167, quoting, "Of course, the germ-killing action of silver has been known for some time. The Soviets used silver ions to sterilize recycled water aboard their space station. It kills even antibiotic-resistant strains and also works on fungus infections." On page 175 it says, quote, "It stimulates bone-forming cells, cures the most common stubborn infections of all kinds of bacteria, and stimulates healing in the skin and other soft tissues." Certainly that is a broad statement, but Dr. Becker further relates a fascinating story which would seem to substantiate his belief. A man's broken right tibia and fibula refused to bond, and the skin refused to heal over a large area of the leg for a year and a half. The leg was infected with 5 kinds of bacteria, all of which refused to respond to antibiotics. As a last resort before amputation, Dr. Becker treated the condition with silver charged with a very minute electrical current. This produced silver ions in the bone area and at the surface area. "I debrided the wound, removing the dead tissue and all grossly infected or dead bone." So this is a quote from Dr. Becker himself. "There wasn't much left afterward. It was an enormous excavation running almost from his knee to his ankle. In the operating room, we soaked a big piece of silver nylon in saline solution and laid it over the wound. We packed the fabric in place with saline-soaked gauze, wrapped the leg, and connected the battery unit. About 2 weeks later, Dr. Becker tells us, quote, "All of our bacterial cultures were sterile. All 5 kinds had been killed. The soft healing tissue, called granulation tissue, was spreading out and covering the bone. In 2 weeks, the whole base of the wound, which had been over 8 square inches of raw bone, was covered with this friendly pink carpet. The skin was beginning to grow in too, so we could forget about the grafts we thought we'd need to do. I decided to take an x-ray to see how much bone he'd lost." And in brackets it said he was expecting the bone to start withdrawing before the knitting process began. And then continuing his quote, "I could hardly believe the picture. There was clearly some bone growth. I removed the cast, felt the leg, and found the pieces were all stuck together. John watched, and when I was done, he lifted his leg into the air triumphantly." After extensive experiments along these lines, Dr. Becker concluded they, and in brackets, the cells exposed to positive silver ions, profoundly stimulate healing in a way unlike any known natural process. Whatever its precise mode of action may be, the electrically generated silver ion can produce enough cells for blasphemers. It has restored my belief that full regeneration of limbs and other body parts can be accomplished in humans. When Dr. Becker placed the silver-coated nylon in the wound and connected an electrode at each end, he produced silver ions, colloidal silver. This cannot be entirely credited with the rapid healing of the bone, as his research proved that the small electrical current was effective in the bone growth all by itself. However, the silver electrodes proved much more effective than any other metal, and this would seem to lead to supposition that the silver ions are effective in stimulating the healing of the bone when in direct contact. His continuing experiments left no doubt of this. So that is what I copied and pasted to my Facebook this morning with my mother in mind, and I'm going to send this article to the doctor, the orthopedic surgeon. Just a young dude who is, when he's wrong, he admits it, or when he doesn't know, he admits it. And yes, anyway, this is what I'd already told my mother. If this is the case, then colloidal silver would have to become part of her diet. There you have it. Now, I have to get back to the console now, and we're way over time again. All right, guys, that's it for today. So more of Yah's revelation and more of me, or the both of us, telling the world about these simple procedures that have been known for a very long time and is what we have proven in our own adventures, which all led to Benedict recognizing Yah as the Christ, because of course this is exactly what you would expect Jesus to do. With that, we'll say later gators, back tomorrow. So Hirad and Ross, thank you. Ross says, thanks guys, another cool show. And yeah, what'll it be tomorrow? Who knows? We don't. Team God, yeah. All right, boys, thank you. Bye.